recent years, the rapid growth of information and communication technology has changed the way students communicate and learn. Social media platforms such as WhatsApp, Instagram, TikTok, Telegram, and X are widely used by university students, including those at UiTM Arau. These platforms are not only used for social interaction, but also for academic purposes such as sharing information, communicating with lecturers, and group discussion. While social media can support learning by improving communication and access to information, excessive use, especially for non-academic purposes, can lead to distraction, poor time management, and reduced academic performance. Therefore, the study focuses on understanding the impact of social media usage on student academic performance.
About the problem statement. Social media has become an integral part of students' daily lives, especially among university students who rely on online platforms for communication, entertainment, and academic purposes. However, the increasing amount of time spent on social media and the constant exposure to online content raise concerns about its potential impact on students' academic performance. In the context of UiTM Arau, many students actively engage with platforms such as TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, and also WhatsApp. Yet, it remains unclear how their time spent, exposure, and also patterns of social media usage influence their academic achievement. While past studies have explored in general effects of social media on learning, there is limited empirical evidence focusing specifically on UiTM Arau students and how different usage behavior relates to CGPA and also learning outcomes. Therefore, this study seeks to examine the influence of social media on the academic performance of UiTM Arau students by identifying time spent online, levels of exposure, social media usage patterns, and also their relationship with student academic performance.
The main objective for this research is to examine how time spent, exposure, usage of social media, and daily hours on social media influence the academic performance (CGPA) of UiTM Arau student. The sub-objective of this research, first, to analyze the demographic profile of UiTM Arau student. Second, to evaluate the time spent on social media by UiTM Arau students and its influence on their CGPA. Third, to investigate UiTM Arau students' exposure to social media that will affect their CGPA. Fourth, to determine the pattern of social media usage among UiTM Arau students and their impact on their CGPA. Fifth, to examine the relationship between daily hours spent on social media and CGPA among UiTM Arau students. And lastly, to examine the relationship between the significant social media factor and the CGPA of UiTM Arau. Our group hypothesis statement. First, regarding time spent on social media, H-null, there is no significant relationship between time spent on social media and the CGPA for UiTM Arau students. For the H alternative, there is a significant relationship between time spent on social media and the CGPA of UiTM Arau students. Second one is about exposure to social media. H-null, there is no significant relationship between student exposure to social media and the CGPA of UiTM Arau students. For the H alternative, there is a significant relationship between students' exposure to social media and the CGPA of UiTM Arau students. Third, regarding social media usage pattern, the H-null is there is no significant relationship between social media usage pattern and the CGPA of UiTM Arau students, while the H alternative, there is a significant relationship between social media usage patterns and the CGPA of UiTM Arau students. Fourth, about daily hours on social media. H-null, there is no significant relationship between daily hours spent on social media and the CGPA among UiTM Arau students. H alternative, there is a significant relationship between daily hours spent on social media and the CGPA among UiTM Arau students. And lastly, regarding significant social media factor and academic performance. H-null, there is no significant relationship between the most significant social media factor and the CGPA of UiTM Arau student, while the H alternative, there is a significant relationship between the most significant social media factor and the CGPA of UiTM Arau student.
For our sampling process, the population of this study consists of UiTM Arau students, as their activity use social media in their daily and academic activity. The sample include 90 students from different faculty and semester. A non-probability convenience sampling method was used, where respondents were selected based on their availability and willingness to participate. Data was collected using an online questionnaire through Google Form. Overall, the sample size of 90 respondents was considered sufficient to support the analysis of social media usage among UiTM Arau students.
Next, I will explain about analysis of descriptive statistics. First, about demographic profile. A descriptive analysis was conducted to examine the demographic profile of the students. The sample consists of 90 participants, with 74.4% of female and 25.6% of male. Most students are from Faculty Applied Science with 37.8%, followed by Computer and Mathematical Science with 34.4%, Accountancy with 10%, Business and Management with 7.8%, Plantation and Agrotechnology and Sport Science and Recreation with 4.4%, and lastly, built environment with 1.9%. Illustrate the distribution of participants by level of education among 90 UiTM RO students. The majority of respondents are diploma students with 61 participants, indicating that diploma students make up the largest proportion of the sample. This is followed by degree students, totaling 28 participants, representing a moderate share of the respondents. In contrast, only one participant is enrolled at the master level, showing minimal representation in this category. Overall, the findings suggest that the study is predominantly influenced by diploma level students, which should be considered when interpreting the result of the research.
Table 4.1.2. Descriptive statistics were computed for CGPA, mean time spent, mean exposure, mean pattern, and hour spent, n equal to 90. CGPA ranged from 1.24 to 4, with moderate negative skewness, equal to negative 0.316. Mean time spent ranged from 133 to 7, and showed strong negative skewness, equal to negative 1.087. Mean exposure ranged from 1 to 7, with moderate positive skewness, equal to 0.904, while mean pattern ranged from 2 to 6.67 and showed light positive skewness. Our span ranged from 1 to 20 with strong positive skewness, equal to 1.084. Overall, students had relative high CGPA, while social media usage varied widely, indicating unequal usage patterns among students.
The case processing summary reveals that all 5 items CGPA, hour spent, mean time spent, mean exposure, and mean pattern had complete and valid data, no missing responses. Each item consists of 90 valid cases representing 100% of the dataset. This indicates a clean dataset suitable for future statistical variables. 3 out of 5 variables show outlier. The CGPA box plot shows no outlier. For hour spent, there are 3 outliers at value 90, 35, and 15. Indicate that a few respondents spend significantly more time on social media compared to others. The mean time spent box plot show 4 outliers below the minimum whiskers at 36, 86, and 87. For mean exposure, there are 2 outliers below the minimum whiskers at 27 and 87, and 8 outliers above the maximum whiskers at 79, 77, 82, 81, 90, 85, 84, and 83. Lastly, mean pattern doesn't have any previous analysis. Outliers were identified in hour spent, mean time spent, and mean exposure. To treat these outliers, they were replaced with mean value of each representative variable. At the treatment, the mean exposure box plot still show outlier above the maximum whiskers at value 23 and 88, indicating a positively sweetness distribution. Similarly, with hour spent still have outlier at 81 and 63. However, the mean time spent box plot show no remaining outlier. The previous round, outliers were still identified in hour spent. To address this issue, the outliers were replaced with the mean value of mean hour spent after the treatment. The mean exposure box plot still shown a few outliers above the maximum whiskers at value 84, 16, 79, and 6, indicating a positively sweetness distribution. Meanwhile, no outliers are observed in the outlier treatment was conducted 3 times to improve data accuracy to reduce the influence of extreme values. Initially, several outliers were identified using box plot analysis, and appropriate treatment were applied. After the third round, the final box plot showed no outlier for all 5 mean variables. This indicated that the data is clean, stable, and suitable for future statistical
Next, I'll
analysis.
explain about the test of normality. So since our group, our sample is greater than 50, so we use Kolmogorov-Smirnov table. So for our H0, the observed distribution fit the normal distribution. For H1, the observed distribution does not fit the normal distribution. So for the test, CGPA, the Kolmogorov-Smirnov test showed a significant value of P equal to 0.017, which is less than 0.05, and this indicates that the CGPA data does not follow a normal distribution. For hour span, the significant value for hour span is P equal to 0, also less than 0.05. Therefore, the data for hour span is not normally distributed. For mean time span, also the P is equal to 0.026, less than 0.05, and the data for mean time span is not normally distributed. Mean exposure, the P is P equal to 0, also less than 0.05, makes that the data for mean exposure is not normally distributed. And lastly, for mean pattern, the test for mean pattern shows a significant value of P equal to 0.144, greater 0.05, and this indicates that the mean pattern data is normally distributed. In conclusion, although some variables are not normally distributed, which is P less than 0.05, the sample size is large, which is n equal to 90, and based on the central limit theorem, a sample size greater than 30 allows that the data to be treated as approximately normal. Therefore, the parametric statistical data appropriate for this study. Let's look to the normal Q plot for CGPA. The normal Q plot for CGPA show that most of the data points lie close to the diagonal reference line, indicating that the CGPA values are approximately normally distributed. However, slight deviation from the line can be observed at the lower and upper ends of the plot, suggesting minor departure from normality. Overall, the QQ plot suggests that although the CGPA data generally follow a normal distribution pattern, it is not perfectly normal, which is consistent with the result obtained from the normality test. Next, for the normal QQ plot for hour span, the point mostly lie close to the reference rate line. This indicate that hour span data approximately follow a normal distribution. There are slight deviation at the lower and upper end, suggesting minor skewness or small departure from normality, but these are not severe. Overall, the normality assumption for hour span is reasonably satisfied. Moving on. Next, for normal QQ plot for mean time span, based on the normal QQ plot, the observed value of mean time span closely follow the diagonal reference line, with only slight deviation at the lower tail. This indicates that the distribution of mean time span is approximately normal. Therefore, the normality assumption is met for mean time span. Moving on, for the normal QQ plot for mean exposure, the point closely follow the straight reference line across almost the entire range. This show that the mean exposure data are very well normally distributed. And lastly, for the mean QQ plot for mean pattern, based on the normal QQ plot, the data point for mean pattern lie closely along the diagonal reference line, with only minor deviation at the lower and upper ends. This indicates that the distribution of mean pattern is approximately normal, and overall, the assumption of normality is satisfied. For HNAL, there is no relationship between daily hours spent on social media and CGPA among UiTM RL students. For H1, there is a relationship between daily hours spent on social media and CGPA among UiTM RL students. Based on the correlation analysis, there is a weak negative relationship between daily hours spent on social media and CGPA, R equal to negative 0.196. However, the relationship is not statistically significant as the p-value rejected, and this indicate that there is no significant relationship between daily hours spent on social media and CGPA among UiTM RL students. Next, H1 is there is no relationship between the significant social media factor and the CGPA of UiTM RL student. For H1, there is a relationship between the significant social media factor and the CGPA of UiTM RL student. For the mean time span, based on the correlation analysis, it shows a moderate negative relationship between mean time spent on social media and CGPA. R equal to negative 0.446 with a significant value of P equal to 0. Less than 0.05, the null hypothesis is rejected, and this indicates that there is a significant relationship between mean time spent on social media and CGPA among UiTM students. Moving on, mean exposure, based on the correlation analysis, it shows a very weak negative relationship between mean exposure and CGPA. R equal to negative 0.043, with a significant value of P equal to 0.0686 is greater than 0.05. Therefore, null hypothesis fails to be rejected. And this indicates that there is no significant relationship between mean exposure and CGPA among UiTM RL students. Next, mean pattern. Based on the correlation analysis, it shows a moderate positive relationship between mean usage pattern and CGPA R equal to 0.367 with a significant value P equal to 0, less than 0.05. The null hypothesis is rejected. And this indicates that there is a significant relationship between mean usage pattern and CGPA among UiTM RL students. Conclusion. Among all social media factors examined, mean time on social media is identified as the most significant factor influencing CGPA among UiTM RL students, as it shows the strongest and statistically significant relationship with CGPA R equal to negative 0.446, less than 0.05. This indicates the higher time spent on social media is associated with lower academic performance. Note that we are ignore for the R, we are ignore the
Next,
negative.
I will be explaining for 4.2.4, which is multiple linear regression. Based on the picture, we get the model summary that can be interpreted. 34% of total variation in CGPA can be explained by the independent variables, which is hour span, mean pattern, mean exposure, and also mean time spent, while another 66% is explained by other factors. For the ANOVA, this is the result that we got, and the interpretation that we can make is the regression model F4 85 is equal to 11.148, which is the p-value is less than 0.05, is significant. At least one of the predictors is significantly related to CGPA. For the coefficients, this is the result that we got, and the interpretation that can be made is the T statistics indicates that time spent on social media, T is equal to negative 4.482, and p-value is less than 0.05, and pattern usage of social media, T is equals to 4.130, and the p-value is also less than 0.05 are significantly contribute to the prediction of CGPA. However, hours spent on social media, t is equals to negative 1.226, and p-value is more than 0.05, and exposure to social media, p is equals to negative 1.532, and p-value also is more than 0.05 are not a significant predictor variable. So we need to drop the hours spent on social media and exposure to social media. EOL values are greater than 0.1 and VIF is less than 10, hence there is no multicollinearity problem. This is the result for histogram. Based on the histogram, we can say that the residuals are normally distributed. This is the result for normal p-plot. The normal p-plot shows the residual is approximately normally distributed since it lies along the straight line. This is the result for scatter plot graph. From the scatter plot of residuals against predicted values, it shows no systematic pattern. So, it indicates the residuals have a constant variance, which is variance remains similar across the level of predictors. Next, I will be explaining for 4.2.5, which is estimated model and interpretation of coefficients. The diagram below shows the model y is equal to beta node plus beta 1 x1 plus beta 2 x2 plus beta 3 x3 plus beta 4 x4. So, we need to substitute the value that we got into the model equation. So, the equation is y is equal to 4.126 minus 0.140, which is mean time spent, minus 0.069, which is mean exposure, plus 0.118, which is mean pattern, and minus 0.020 for hours spent. Based on the picture, we got the model summary that can be interpreted. 32% of total variation in CGPA can be explained by the independent variables, which is mean pattern and mean time spent, while another 68% is explained by the other factors. For the ANOVA, this is the result that we got. And the interpretation that can be made is the regression model F287 is equal to 20.144, which is the p-value is less than 0.05, is significant. At least one of the predictors is significantly related to CGPA. For the coefficients, this is the result that we got, and we can interpret that the t statistics indicates the time spent on social media, t is equals to negative 4.812, and the p-value is less than 0.05, and pattern usage of social media, p is equal to 3.871, and the p-value is also less than 0.05 are significant to the prediction of CGPA. EOL values are greater than 0.1 and the VIF is less than 10. Hence, there is no multicollinearity problem. This is the result for histogram. Based on the histogram, we can say that the residuals are normally distributed. This is the result for normal p-plot. The normal p-plot shows the residual is approximately normally distributed since it lies along the straight line. This is the result for scatter plot graph. From the scatter plot of residuals against predicted values, it shows no systematic pattern. So, it indicates the residuals have a constant variance, which is variance remains similar across the level of predictors.
For the first objective, the results show that time spent on social media has a significant relationship with CGPA. The relationship is a moderate negative correlation, which means that the more time students spend on social media, the lower their CGPA tends to be. Therefore, the null hypothesis is rejected and the alternative hypothesis is accepted. For social media exposure, the findings indicate that there is no significant relationship with CGPA. This suggests that students' exposure to social media does not significantly affect their academic performance. Hence, the null hypothesis is the results show that social media usage patterns have a significant relationship with CGPA. A moderate positive correlation was found, indicating that better or more structured usage of social media is associated with better academic performance. Therefore, the null hypothesis is rejected. Finally, the results indicate that daily hours spent on social media have a weak and non-significant relationship with CGPA. This means that the number of hours spent on social media alone does not significantly influence student academic performance. As a result, the null hypothesis is accepted. For the seed research objective, the results show that mean time spent on social media is significantly related to CGPA with a p-value of less than 0.05. Therefore, the null hypothesis is rejected and the alternative hypothesis is accepted. However, the regression coefficient value indicates a weak negative relationship, meaning that an increase in average time spent on social media is associated with a slight
The study examined the effect of social media use on academic performance among UiTM Arau students based on data from 90 respondents. The findings show that social media usage is common among students and plays an important role in the daily academic and social media. The results indicate that the time spent on social media has a significant relationship with CGPA, where excessive usage may negatively affect academic performance. In contrast, patterns of social media usage such as studying, sharing educational content, and learning activities show a significant positive relationship with CGPA. However, social media exposure and daily hours spent on social media do not show a significant relationship with CGPA. Overall, time spent on social media is identified as the most significant factor influencing CGPA. In conclusion, social media can have both positive and negative effect on academic performance, depending on how it used, and students are encouraged to manage their social media usage wisely to achieve better academic results.